Yeah, the human sniper was mocked until every shot hit its mark. The Galactic Defense Station orbited the contested moon of Zerion 7, its massive hull bristling with weapons and shield generators. Inside the command center, representatives from 12 different species sat around a holographic tactical display, their varied forms creating an odd assembly of the galaxy's finest military minds. Commander Vexthul, a towering Craxian with 4 arms and chitinous armor plating, gestured dismissively at the human figure standing at attention near the briefing podium. "This is what Earth sends us? One soft-skinned biped with primitive projectile weapons?" The human in question, Sergeant Marcus Chen, stood perfectly still despite the obvious mockery. His dark hair was cropped short in military fashion, and his lean frame was encased in what appeared to be standard infantry gear. Across his back hung a rifle that looked almost archaic compared to the energy weapons and plasma cannons favored by other species. General Tessara, a serpentine Nagai with scales that shimmered purple in the station's artificial light, hissed her agreement. "The Devourers are coming in numbers we have never seen. Their bioships can absorb energy weapons and regenerate from most kinetic impacts. How exactly does Earth expect this primitive hunter to contribute?" The briefing hologram displayed the approaching threat, a swarm of organic vessels that looked more like massive insects than traditional spacecraft. The Devourers were an ancient plague that consumed entire star systems, converting all matter into more of their kind. They had already destroyed 3 colonies in the Outer Rim, and Zerion 7 was their next target. Ambassador Elena Vasquez, Earth's diplomatic representative, stepped forward. Her weathered face showed the stress of weeks of negotiations, but her voice remained steady. "Sergeant Chen is not just any soldier. He represents humanity's greatest tactical advantage: precision under pressure." This drew a chorus of dismissive clicks, growls, and electronic static that served as laughter among the assembled aliens. The Zephyrians, beings of pure energy contained in crystalline shells, pulsed with what could only be interpreted as amusement. Even the normally stoic mechanical collective's representative emitted a series of derisive beeps. "Precision?" Commander Vexthul's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his species. "My plasma artillery can vaporize a Devourer bioship in seconds. The Zephyrian energy lances can cut through their organic armor like it doesn't exist. What can one human with an ancient kinetic weapon possibly accomplish?" Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm and measured. "Permission to demonstrate, sir?" The Craxian commander's 4 eyes focused on the human with predatory interest. "By all means, show us this legendary human precision." The station's observation deck was quickly converted into an impromptu firing range. Targets were set up at various distances, some stationary, others moving in complex patterns. The assembled alien commanders gathered behind protective barriers, their expressions ranging from curious to openly contemptuous. Marcus checked his rifle with practiced efficiency. The weapon was a marvel of human engineering, combining traditional ballistics with advanced materials and targeting systems. Unlike the energy weapons used by other species, it fired solid projectiles that could be modified for specific purposes. "First target," announced the range computer. A small disk began weaving through the air 300 meters away, following an unpredictable flight path. Marcus raised his rifle, took a breath, and fired. The projectile struck the target dead center, destroying it instantly. "Lucky shot," muttered General Tessara, though her tone carried less certainty than before. "Second target," the computer announced. This time, 5 disks launched simultaneously from different directions, each following erratic patterns at varying speeds and distances. Marcus didn't hesitate. In rapid succession, he fired 5 shots. Each projectile found its mark with mechanical precision, destroying all targets within a span of 3 seconds. The observation deck fell silent except for the hum of the station's life support systems. "Perhaps you would prefer a more challenging demonstration?" Ambassador Vasquez suggested, unable to hide her satisfaction at the aliens' stunned reactions. Commander Vex Thul's pride wouldn't allow him to back down. "Computer, activate the impossible scenario." The range transformed into a three-dimensional battlefield simulation. Holographic Devourer bioships swarmed through the space, their movements based on actual combat data from previous encounters. The targets were smaller, faster, and employed the same evasive maneuvers that had frustrated alien forces in real battles. Marcus studied the chaos for exactly 2 seconds, calculating vectors, speeds, and intercept points with the cold efficiency that had made him Earth's premier marksman. Then, he began firing. Each shot was deliberate, purposeful. Where alien weapons would spray energy in wide arcs, hoping to catch fast-moving targets, Marcus placed each bullet with surgical precision. He targeted weak points that other species had missed, exploited brief moments of vulnerability that lasted mere fractions of a second. Bioship after bioship fell to his rifle, each one struck in exactly the right place to cause maximum damage. He didn't waste ammunition on impossible shots, instead waiting for the perfect moment when geometry and timing aligned in his favor. When the simulation ended, 27 holographic Devourer vessels lay destroyed, and Marcus hadn't missed a single shot. The silence stretched for nearly a full minute before General Thaisara spoke. "How is this possible? Our best gunners achieve perhaps 60% accuracy against such targets." "It's not magic," Marcus replied, finally lowering his rifle. "It's math, physics, and practice. Humans have been persistence hunters for millions of years. We don't give up, and we don't miss when it matters." Commander Vex Thul's chitinous armor plates shifted as he processed what he had witnessed. "Still, you are only one soldier. The Devourers come in thousands." Ambassador Vasquez smiled. "Sergeant Chen isn't going alone. He's part of a larger human strategy, one that our alien allies haven't fully understood yet." She activated her personal display, showing a schematic of the human battle plan. Instead of massing ships for direct confrontation like other species, humanity proposed a different approach. Small teams of specialists would board Devourer vessels using stealth technology, targeting critical systems from within while the main fleet provided distraction. "Impossible," declared the Mechanical Collective's representative, its synthetic voice flat and emotionless. "Devourer bioships are living organisms. They can detect intruders through biological sensors that no known technology can fool." "No known alien technology," corrected Ambassador Vasquez. "But humans have always been very good at pretending to be something we're not." Marcus began removing equipment from his gear pack, revealing devices that looked unlike anything in the standard galactic arsenal. Where alien technology favored clean lines and energy-based systems, human tools appeared almost primitive by comparison until one understood their true function. "Biological camouflage," he explained, holding up what appeared to be a simple fabric covering. "This mimics the electromagnetic signature of Devourer drone organisms. Their ships won't recognize us as threats because they'll think we're part of their own biology." "And if this camouflage fails?" asked General Thaisara. Marcus patted his rifle. "Then we rely on what humans do best: adapt and overcome." The Zephyrian representative pulsed with skeptical energy patterns. "Your species continues to surprise us, but surprise alone will not win this battle. The Devourers have consumed civilizations far older and more advanced than Earth." "Maybe," Marcus acknowledged, "but they've never faced humans before." As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The tactical display flashed red as sensors detected the approaching Devourer swarm, still hours away but closing fast. Commander Vex Thul's military training took over despite his doubts about the human plan. All units to battle stations. Prepare for combat operations. The assembled commanders began dispersing to their respective ships. But Marcus remained behind, checking and rechecking his equipment with meticulous care. "Nervous, human?" General Thissera asked as she passed. Marcus looked up from his rifle maintenance, his expression completely calm. "No, ma'am. Just making sure everything's perfect. Humans only get one chance to make a first impression, and I intend to make it count." The Serpentine general studied his face for a long moment, seeing something there that gave her pause. Perhaps it was the absolute confidence, or maybe the way his hands moved with practiced efficiency even under pressure. Whatever it was, she found herself believing that this primitive-seeming soldier might actually accomplish the impossible. "For all our sakes, Sergeant Chen, I hope your confidence is warranted." Marcus smiled grimly as he slung his rifle across his shoulder. "It always has been before, General. No reason to doubt it now." As the human made his way to the shuttle bay where his infiltration team waited, the alien commanders found themselves reconsidering everything they thought they knew about Earth's newest members of the Galactic Defense Coalition. Perhaps there was more to these strange bipeds than met the eye. The battle for Zerion 7 was about to begin, and for the first time in the war against the Devourers, the outcome was far from certain. But in the depths of space, aboard ships preparing for humanity's first major galactic conflict, Marcus Chen and soldiers like him prepared to show the universe exactly what it meant to be human. The Devourers had never faced an enemy that refused to miss when it mattered most. They were about to learn why that made all the difference in the galaxy. The human sniper was mocked, until every shot hit its mark, the infiltration shuttle. Persistence drifted silently through the debris field that surrounded Zerion 7. Marcus Chen lay motionless in the gunner's position, his rifle trained on the massive bioship that dominated his field of view. The Devourer vessel looked like a fusion of insect and nightmare, its organic hull pulsing with veins of bioluminescent fluid. "Contact in 30 seconds, whispered Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the shuttle's pilot and Marcus's spotter. Like all human military personnel, she spoke in hushed tones that wouldn't carry over their biological camouflage systems. Through his scope, Marcus could see the alien fleet engaging the Devourers in the distance. Bright flashes of plasma fire and energy lances lit up space as the Galactic Defense Coalition threw everything they had at the swarm. Despite their superior technology, the aliens were losing. The Devourer bioships absorbed energy attacks and regenerated damage faster than the Coalition could inflict it. "Thermal reading shows 17 major nerve clusters along the spine," reported Corporal Yuki Tanaka, their xenobiologist and infiltration specialist. "Just like the simulation, but the biological activity is more intense than we expected." Marcus adjusted his scope's magnification, studying the target vessel with the patience that had made him Earth's deadliest sniper. The Devourer ship was nearly 2 kilometers long, its hull covered in what appeared to be armored chitinous plates. But Marcus wasn't looking at the armor. He was studying the gaps between plates, the slight variations in hull thickness, the barely visible nerve pathways that carried signals throughout the creature's body. "I count 43 weak points," he said finally. 17 that would cause system failures, 8 that would trigger pain responses, and 3 that would result in complete neural shutdown. "Which one first?" asked Lieutenant Kim. Marcus didn't hesitate. "None of them. We're going for the brain." The shuttle's crew exchanged glances. Their mission parameters called for disabling the ship's weapons systems first, then working their way toward more critical targets. Marcus was suggesting they skip straight to the most dangerous part of their assignment. "That wasn't the plan, Sarge," Lieutenant Kim pointed out carefully. "Plans change," Marcus replied, never taking his eye from the scope. "Look at the alien fleet. They're getting massacred out there because they're fighting these things like ships instead of living creatures. You don't disable a predator by shooting its claws. You go for the brain. Through his scope, Marcus watched as a Craxian battlecruiser exploded under focused fire from 3 bioships. The organic vessels moved with coordination that no artificial intelligence could match, supporting each other with tactical precision that spoke of a shared consciousness. The nerve clusters you identified, Tanaka, are they connected to the central nervous system? The xenobiologist quickly cross-referenced her scans with the biological data Earth had gathered from previous encounters. Yes, but Sergeant, the brain is buried deep inside the ship's core. Even if you could penetrate the hull, the bullet would have to travel through nearly half a kilometer of organic tissue. Marcus smiled grimly. Then we better make sure the shot counts. The shuttle's infiltration systems activated as they approached the bioship's hull. The biological camouflage that had seemed so primitive to the alien commanders now proved its worth, making the persistence appear as nothing more than a small piece of organic debris to the Devourer's sensors. They settled against the hull with barely a vibration. The bioship's surface was warm to the touch, and Marcus could feel it pulsing with the rhythm of some massive heartbeat. It was like lying against the side of a sleeping whale, if whales were the size of cities and covered in natural armor. Cutting through, reported Corporal Tanaka as she activated the human breaching system. Instead of energy cutters or plasma torches, humans had developed something far more insidious for dealing with living ships. The breach charge was actually a carefully engineered biological agent that convinced the ship's hull that it was injured and needed to form a healing scab. The result was a perfectly circular opening that the bioship's own immune system created. "Biological sensors aren't detecting us," Lieutenant Kim reported. "The camouflage is holding." Marcus dropped through the breach into the bioship's interior, his rifle ready and his senses alert. The inside of the vessel was unlike anything in the alien fleet's experience. There were no corridors or rooms in the traditional sense. Instead, they found themselves in a network of organic tunnels that pulsed and contracted like arteries. The air was thick and humid, carrying the scent of ozone and something that reminded Marcus of hospitals. Bioluminescent patches along the walls provided dim lighting that cast everything in an eerie blue-green glow. "Motion sensors are picking up movement throughout the ship," whispered Corporal Tanaka. "Lots of small organisms, probably maintenance drones." Marcus nodded, studying the tunnel layout through his rifle scope. The Devourer bioships were living creatures, but they were also warships. Somewhere in this organic maze was a brain capable of coordinating attacks across multiple vessels, and it was his job to find it. "This way," he said, choosing a tunnel that led deeper into the ship. His choice wasn't random. During his demonstration on the space station, Marcus had made it look like pure marksmanship, but there was far more to his abilities than steady hands. Humans were pattern recognition specialists, and Marcus had spent years studying the biological patterns that governed all living things. They moved through the tunnels like ghosts, their footsteps muffled by the spongy organic floor. The bioship's immune system ignored them completely, convinced by their camouflage that they were supposed to be there. As they traveled deeper, Marcus began to understand the true scope of what they faced. This wasn't just a warship. It was an entire ecosystem, complete with specialized organisms for every function. He spotted creatures that appeared to be living computers, their neural networks processing information faster than any artificial system. Others served as weapons, their bodies adapted for generating and directing energy attacks. "Sarge," Lieutenant Kim's voice was tight with controlled fear. "We've got company." Ahead of them, one of the Devourer maintenance drones had stopped its work and was turning toward their position. The creature was roughly humanoid, but covered in chitinous plates similar to the ship's hull. Its head was a cluster of sensory organs that could detect everything from electromagnetic signatures to chemical traces. Marcus raised his rifle, calculating angles and distances in the fraction of a second he had before the drone could raise an alarm. But as his finger touched the trigger, he hesitated. Killing the drone would certainly alert the ship's defenses, but letting it live might expose their presence anyway. The drone tilted its head, studying them with obvious confusion. Its biological sensors were detecting their presence, but the camouflage was confusing its threat assessment protocols. To its limited intelligence, they appeared to be some kind of known organism, but not one it could categorize. Marcus made his decision. Instead of shooting, he slowly lowered his rifle and began moving forward in a pattern that mimicked the gait of the maintenance drones they had observed. The key to human survival had always been adaptability, and if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was pretending to belong where they didn't. The drone watched them pass, its sensor cluster tracking their movement but finding nothing that triggered its alarm responses. After several long seconds, it returned to its work, apparently satisfied that they were just another part of the ship's biological ecosystem. "How did you know that would work?" whispered Corporal Tanaka as they continued deeper into the ship. Marcus smiled grimly. "Humans have been imitating other species for millions of years. It's how our ancestors survived among predators much stronger than themselves." They reached a junction where multiple tunnels converged, and Marcus paused to study the biological traffic patterns. Larger organisms moved through one tunnel, while smaller creatures used another. But it was the third tunnel that caught his attention. Nothing was using it at all, which could only mean one thing. "That way leads to something important," he said, pointing to the empty passage. "Something that doesn't want to be disturbed." The tunnel sloped downward, carrying them toward the ship's center. As they descended, Marcus began to feel a strange sensation, like a pressure building behind his eyes. The others felt it too, judging by their increasingly uncomfortable expressions. "Neural field getting stronger," reported Corporal Tanaka. "We must be getting close to the central nervous system." The tunnel opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that created complex, shifting displays of light and color. In the center of the chamber, suspended by organic cables that resembled nerve fibers, hung what could only be the bioship's brain. The organ was massive, easily the size of a small building, and covered in a network of neural pathways that sparked with constant electrical activity. Marcus realized he was looking at one of the most sophisticated biological computers in the known galaxy, capable of processing information and coordinating actions across multiple vessels simultaneously. "That's what's been giving the alien fleet so much trouble," he said quietly. "It's not just commanding one ship, it's commanding all of them." Lieutenant Kim's voice was filled with awe and fear. "Sarge, if you damage that thing, won't it just regenerate like the hull armor?" Marcus studied the brain through his rifle scope, noting the patterns of electrical activity and the way neural impulses flowed through the organ. Unlike the ship's hull, which was designed for durability and regeneration, the brain was optimized for processing speed and efficiency. That made it far more vulnerable to the right kind of damage. "Not if I hit the right spot," he said, adjusting his scope for the impossible shot he was about to attempt. "Every brain has a weak point, even this one." He had one chance. The distance was enormous, nearly 400 meters through the chamber's complex geometry. The target was smaller than a human fist, buried deep within the massive organ's neural networks. The shot would have to pass through multiple layers of protective tissue and strike a specific cluster of neurons with surgical precision. Any miss would alert the entire ship to their presence and likely result in their immediate death. But Marcus had never missed when it mattered, and he wasn't about to start now. He took a breath, calculated the trajectory one final time, and squeezed the trigger. The bullet, specially designed for this exact purpose, streaked through the chamber and struck the brain's critical neural cluster with devastating effect. The result was immediate and catastrophic. The massive organ convulsed as electrical patterns disrupted throughout its neural networks. The bioluminescent displays on the walls flickered and died as the ship's central nervous system failed. Throughout the Devourer fleet, bioships began losing coordination as their shared consciousness collapsed. Ships that had moved with perfect tactical precision moments before now floundered like blind animals, their attacks becoming random and ineffective. Marcus allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction as he slung his rifle across his shoulder. Time to go. This ship won't stay dead for long, and I'd rather not be here when it tries to regenerate. As they made their way back through the dying bioship's tunnels, explosions echoed from outside as the alien fleet finally began to gain the upper hand against the confused Devourer forces. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since the war began, the galaxy's defenders had hope. And it all started with one human who refused to miss when lives were on the line. The human sniper was mocked until every shot hit its mark. The Galactic Defense Station's command center erupted in stunned silence as the tactical displays showed impossible readings. Across the battlefield, Devourer bioships that had been moving with deadly coordination moments before were now drifting aimlessly, their attacks becoming scattered and ineffective. Commander Vexthul stared at his screens in disbelief. What happened to their formation? They're acting like they've lost all tactical awareness. General Tessara's serpentine form coiled with excitement as she realized what they were seeing. The human actually did it. On the main display, the largest Devourer bioship was showing signs of severe neural disruption. Its bioluminescent patterns had dimmed significantly, and the creature was no longer responding to attacks from the alien fleet with its previous deadly efficiency. Ambassador Elena Vasquez allowed herself a moment of pride as she watched her species' plan unfold exactly as they had predicted. Sergeant Chen has successfully eliminated the primary command node. All Devourer ships in this sector are now operating independently. The Zephyrian representative pulsed with energy patterns that indicated amazement. Impossible! Our scientists theorized that the bioships shared a collective consciousness, but we could never prove it, let alone exploit it. Humans have always been good at finding the weak points in seemingly invincible systems, Ambassador Vasquez replied. It's how we survived long enough to reach the stars. The tactical advantage was immediate and overwhelming. Without their shared consciousness coordinating attacks and movements, the individual bioships became vulnerable to standard fleet tactics. The alien commanders, no longer facing an impossibly coordinated enemy, quickly began to adapt their strategies. Craxian plasma artillery that had previously been unable to target the fast-moving vessels now found their mark with devastating effect. Zephyrian energy lances sliced through bioship hulls that could no longer anticipate and evade the attacks. Even the normally methodical mechanical collective's ships began pressing their advantage with calculated aggression. But Marcus Chen and his team were still trapped inside the dying bioship, and their situation was becoming increasingly desperate. The organic tunnels around them were beginning to convulse as the ship's autonomous systems attempted to repair the massive neural damage. Emergency organisms swarmed through the passages, their purpose clearly to identify and eliminate whatever had caused the catastrophic injury to their vessel's brain. "Movement ahead," whispered Lieutenant Kim as they approached another junction. "Lots of it." Through his rifle scope, Marcus could see dozens of the ship's immune system responders converging on their position. Unlike the maintenance drones they had encountered before, these creatures were clearly designed for combat. Their chitinous armor was thicker, their movements more aggressive, and they carried what appeared to be organic weapons integrated into their very biology. "They know we're here now," Marcus said calmly. The camouflage was designed to fool passive sensors, not an active immune response. Corporal Tanaka checked her readings with growing alarm. "Bioship is trying to seal all exits. If we don't move fast, we'll be trapped when the hull regenerates." Marcus studied the approaching creatures through his scope, counting numbers and calculating their capabilities. The math was simple and unforgiving. There were too many of them to fight directly, and running would only delay the inevitable confrontation. But humans had survived for millions of years by finding solutions that other species missed. "How long do we have before the ship seals completely?" he asked. "Maybe 10 minutes," Tanaka replied. 15 if we're lucky. Marcus nodded, making rapid calculations. "Then we don't fight them. We lead them." Instead of retreating down the tunnel they had come from, Marcus headed directly toward the approaching immune responders. His team followed without question, trusting in the tactical genius that had gotten them this far. "Sarge, what are you doing?" Lieutenant Kim asked urgently. "Something only a human would think of," Marcus replied, raising his rifle and taking careful aim. But instead of targeting the creatures themselves, Marcus aimed at the organic support structures that held the tunnel ceiling in place. His first shot struck a critical load-bearing nerve cluster, causing a section of the passage to collapse behind the immune responders. His second shot hit a hydraulic vessel that supplied pressure to the tunnel walls, causing them to buckle inward. The immune system creatures found themselves trapped in a rapidly collapsing section of their own ship, their single-minded pursuit of the intruders now working against them as they fought to escape the falling debris. "Biological psychology," Marcus explained as they moved past the trapped creatures. "These organisms are programmed to hunt threats to their ship, but they're not designed to think strategically about environmental hazards. They see us as the danger, not the structural damage we can cause." They emerged from the organic tunnels into a larger chamber that appeared to serve as some kind of central hub. Multiple passages led in different directions, and the walls were covered with what appeared to be biological monitoring systems. "Exit should be through there," Corporal Tanaka said, indicating a tunnel that angled upward toward the ship's hull. But as they approached the passage, Marcus held up a hand for them to stop. His enhanced hearing had detected something that made his combat instincts flare with alarm. "We're not alone," he said quietly. From the shadows at the far end of the chamber, something large began to move. The creature that emerged was unlike anything they had encountered in the ship so far. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body a fusion of organic armor and integrated weapon systems. This wasn't just an immune system responder. This was the bioship's equivalent of a security chief. The creature's sensory cluster focused on them with obvious intelligence, and when it spoke, its voice was a harmonious blend of multiple vocal organs that created an almost hypnotic effect. "Intruders," it said in perfect galactic standard. "You have caused irreparable damage to this vessel's primary consciousness matrix. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift." Marcus raised his rifle, but he didn't fire immediately. Instead, he studied the creature with the same analytical precision he applied to all his targets. Unlike the other organisms they had encountered, this one showed signs of individual intelligence rather than simple programmed responses. "You can think for yourself," he observed. "Interesting. I wonder if that means you can also feel fear." The creature's armor plates shifted slightly, a movement that Marcus interpreted as either curiosity or annoyance. "I am the guardian of this vessel's essential functions. I do not experience fear as lesser organisms do." "Everyone experiences fear," Marcus replied calmly. "Even humans. The difference is what we do with it." Without warning, Marcus fired 3 shots in rapid succession. But instead of targeting the Guardian directly, his bullets struck specific points on the chamber walls around the creature. The shots triggered a cascade of biological failures that caused sections of the ceiling to collapse, emergency systems to activate, and structural supports to buckle. In the chaos that followed, the Guardian found itself dealing with multiple system failures throughout its domain. Its attention divided between pursuing the intruders and managing the crisis they had caused. It made the mistake of trying to handle both priorities simultaneously. Marcus didn't give it the chance to adapt. While the creature was distracted by the emergency responses, he put a fourth bullet directly into what his tactical analysis indicated was its primary neural cluster. The Guardian collapsed instantly, its sophisticated intelligence extinguished by a precisely placed shot that any alien marksman would have considered impossible in the chaotic environment of the collapsing chamber. "That's what fear does," Marcus said as they ran toward the exit tunnel. "It makes you try to control everything instead of focusing on what matters." They reached the ship's hull just as the emergency regeneration systems began sealing the breach they had used to enter. The Persistence was still attached to the bioship's surface, its pilot maintaining position despite the vessel's increasingly erratic movements. As they lifted away from the dying bioship, Marcus watched through the shuttle's observation ports as the alien fleet pressed their advantage. The Devourer swarm that had seemed unstoppable just hours before was now being systematically destroyed by coordinated attacks that exploited their loss of shared consciousness. "Incredible," Lieutenant Kim said as she piloted them back toward the defense station. "One shot, and you changed the entire course of the battle." Marcus shook his head. "It wasn't one shot. It was understanding what made them strong and finding a way to turn that strength into weakness." The communication system crackled to life with transmissions from across the fleet. Alien commanders who had mocked human involvement in the battle were now requesting immediate consultation on how to exploit the vulnerabilities Marcus had revealed. "All Coalition vessels, this is General Thisara. Be advised that human tactical analysis has provided breakthrough intelligence on Devourer weaknesses. All future operations will incorporate human strategic input." Commander Vex Thul's voice followed shortly after. "Sergeant Chen, this is Commander Vex Thul. I owe you an apology. Your species' reputation for precision was not exaggerated." Marcus keyed his microphone, his voice carrying the quiet confidence that had impressed alien observers from the beginning. "No apology necessary, Commander. Humans don't fight to prove anything to anyone else. We fight because someone has to, and we're very good at it." As the Persistence docked with the defense station, Marcus could see the tactical displays showing the complete rout of the Devourer forces. Bioships that had seemed invincible were now fleeing the system or being destroyed by alien weapons that could finally target them effectively. The battle for Zerion 7 was over, but Marcus knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were other threats beyond the Devourers. But for the first time since humanity had joined the Galactic Defense Coalition, their alien allies understood what they brought to the table. It wasn't advanced technology or superior firepower. It was the ability to see patterns that others missed, to find solutions that seemed impossible, and to never miss when everything depended on making the shot. In the depths of space, other Devourer swarms received scattered, confused reports from the survivors of Zerion 7. They spoke of creatures that could strike at the very heart of bioship consciousness, beings that could turn a vessel's own defenses against it. The Devourers had conquered thousands of worlds and consumed countless civilizations, but they had never encountered anything quite like humanity before. They were about to learn why that made all the difference in a galaxy where survival often came down to a single perfectly placed shot. As Marcus cleaned and stored his rifle in preparation for the next mission, he reflected on the day's events. The alien commanders had started the battle questioning human capabilities and ended it requesting human leadership. It was, he thought with quiet satisfaction, a very human kind of victory. Not won through overwhelming force or superior technology, but through understanding, adaptation, and the refusal to miss when lives hung in the balance. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but humanity had just proven they belonged among the stars. And Marcus Chen had shown them all exactly what it meant to be human when the universe needed heroes most.